All right, welcome, quote, everyone. um, what I want to do today is some more stuff with Excel. I feel like coming to the end of the semester with only one class left, it's more important to focus on some of the aspects that you can take away from this course. And I know that pretty much no one is going to use the big, crazy, hairy formulas that I have shown you before, specifically. Oh, I closed my file. So let me take a second. There we go. This is the formula sheet I provide to my students for the chapter 9, well, chapter 6 through 9 stuff, actually, not just chapter 9, where we go through the first 4 before chapter 9 and then the last 4 in chapter 9, kind of browsing some of these, using some a little more than others, but you get the point. And the point ultimately is when you're done with this class, no one is going to use this formula to calculate how much money they can have in a retirement account 40 years from now. No one is going to use, or either of these formulas, that is, no one's going to use this formula to figure out how much money they need to put away every month to save $1 million at retirement or anything like that. You're going to go to the internet most likely, potentially using the resources I've given you, or you might find some others on your own. And once again, no one's really going to use this formula to find their loan payment. They're going to Google mortgage calculator, and with 3 inputs of numbers, boom, they've got their answer. Why would you use these big, crazy formulas? And it's actually half my opinion that we shouldn't even do them in this course, because it's quantitative reasoning, which is not to say that we can't have complicated math, but this is quantitative reasoning 1, where I really feel like we're supposed to be focusing more on the, sorry, my dog is barking and it's distracting me. We're supposed to be focusing more on proportions, percents, linear growth versus exponential growth, things like that, and then using technology where it can assist us. And I really think technology is meant to assist us with stuff like this. And that specific technology is either websites with calculators or, that's right, our good old friend Excel. So if you have me, then you saw today we talked about mortgages and credit cards. And I just want to kind of show you how you could set up a mortgage or credit card process by using Excel. And I actually want to do the credit card first. And they're exactly the same concept, so there really won't be too much to change. So the problem that I did with my students earlier was that, let's say you have $2,000 in credit card debt, card that charges 18% APR, which is on the lower side of things. I'd say the average credit card is 22 to 24. Just because you have cards that are 18, 19% doesn't mean it's not the average. And at this amount, you have a minimum monthly payment of $50. Now, you can pay more than that. There are different minimum payment calculations from credit card company to credit card company. It's just a matter of whether their goal is to have you pay it off in 5 years or 10 years or whatever someone else deems necessary. The idea there is they'll say, all right, your minimum payment is $10 unless your balance is this high. And if it's over this high, then you have to pay 1% of the balance or 2% of the balance or 3% of the balance, something like that. It's a pretty easy calculation to do. It's just percentage times balance to get your payment. But anyways, we're just going with the minimum payment right here. How many months will it take to pay off your card at this rate? Now, if you watch my previous lecture, if you're my student and watch this previous lecture, then you know the answer is, I'm not going to say it. And we did that with a website, and I'll pull up the website to confirm it for those of you who aren't my students. In fact, do I still have that link? No, I'll pull that up later. Okay, so we'll pull up the website. I'll even, in fact, that's what I need to do. In Canvas, I need to link y'all my helpful financial resources as well, for those who aren't my students, because I can't guarantee your teacher knows of those things. All right, so let's get to this. $2,000 our starting credit card debt, and we're not going to add anything to this until it's paid off. And then once it's paid off, anything we add to it, we will pay off that month so the credit card company doesn't charge us interest. All right, so $2,000 to start, $50 monthly payments. 15% APR, which means we end up paying 1.5% for a periodic rate because that's 18 divided by 12. How many months will it take to pay off? So let me do, let me see what we can do at the end of that. All right, so we'll come back to that. Okay, so let's zoom in just a little bit. Let's just do months and numbers instead of specific dates, but if you're making your own spreadsheet, you can have this be date and then January of 2020, February of 2020, March of 2020. You could still call it month, that would be fine, but I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's have our starting balance, and then we'll definitely need to widen that column. Let's have a balance for the interest amount. Let's have a, I think I said balance twice, a column for the interest, a column for the payment amounts, and then a column for the new balance. I'm just going to widen these just in case they need to be widened. And then over to the side, let's just label a few extra things like the initial balance. We said was the $2,000. The APR, which is our annual percent rate of 18%. Then we had our monthly payment of $50. Oops. Just wanted a colon there. Okay. Now you can use you can get these used over here with cell references, or you could type them. It's not going to be the end of the world, whichever you do. And then month 1, 2, 3, and I'm not actually going to drag these down yet. Let's just see what happens. So starting balance. So you could type your 2,000 here, or you could do a fixed cell reference with the initial balance over there, and it has to be fixed. In other words, we need to double cache it. See, I can't use my arrows to move right now. I was trying to move between the letters and the numbers, but it makes me move cells, so don't do that. I need to just use my mouse and click, click. There we go. So that one's going to be $2,000 and it won't change. If I say, all right, our initial balance is $5,000, that will change. And I think this is the better way to go. That way you can create multiple scenarios. Our interest is the product of the balance and the periodic rate. So equals the balance times the periodic rate. Now the periodic rate is not 18%, it's 18% divided by 12. So we do that and then divided by 12. This is not going to be okay though, because we're going to need a fixed cell reference for that as well, because it's just some random number to the side that we don't move. So, and once again, using my arrows, that screws that up. I'm doing this intentionally. So let me double click to get back in there, use my mouse to click around. Sometimes you can use your arrows, sometimes you can't. It's usually once you click in there that now I can use my arrows to move in. Now the blue reference we want moving because we want that going down, as we've talked about hundreds of times. The red one we don't want moving. So we're paying $30 in interest the first month. Now this means that a bare minimum, an absolute bare minimum, our payment has to be $30 just to cover the interest. And if our payment's $30, we will literally never pay this off. It will stay a balance of $2,000 forever. If you pay less than $30 interest, the account will actually grow, and credit card companies are not allowed to have that happen. So they will not let you make a payment of less than $30 without charging you a fee. And I know that's ironic, but welcome to America. All right, so our payment we said was a flat $50. So once again, you could type your 50 here if you wanted to, or you could just use the cell reference over here. If you type this 50, fair warning, when you go to drag things down, if you're dragging multiple columns at a time, it's possible that that number will turn into a 51, a 52, and a 53. It didn't happen there, but check this out. Let's just say I do this, and then I do this. I'm just kind of goofing around for a second, but let's say I wanted to copy these both at the same time. See, there it starts incrementing the numbers. So that's what I'm talking about. You have to be careful. You have to pay attention after you do everything. You have to make sure all your numbers are correct. So to really make sure that doesn't happen, I'm going to do a cell reference. So I say, hey, just be equal, and then click the cell with the 50. But of course, we know we'll have to double cache it. There we go, the payment's 50. So that way, when I drag it down, no matter how I drag it down, even if I do this, it still stays 50. New balance. equals. Now you're used to going, it's the old balance and then plus or minus the interest. Plus, if this is a savings situation, minus if it's the bank taking money from you for a mortgage or something. But this is interest that the bank is charging that goes in addition to the balance. So we go equals balance, then plus the interest, because the bank is charging that would increase our balance. But then we have a payment of $50, so we go minus, because that will reduce the balance, because this is a credit card, this is money owed. So whether you're adding interest or payments or subtracting interest or payments depends on the scenario. You have to make sure everything makes sense. And now we owe $1,980. Row 2, the starting balance must be linked. Again, the 100th time I've said it, so we go equals, and then click on this one. Boom. And then we're going to drag the interest down. Now that was a fixed reference, so everything should be okay. Now the balance is a little less, so we should expect the interest to be a little less. Well, it says exactly the same. What's up with that, Mr. Beckner? Well, because I was typing dollar signs here, it's just going to do flat dollars unless I click this to change the decimal precision to move it left or right. Or I could just go back and format all of these to currency by highlighting those and clicking the dollar symbol, and now it will display it as well. And we can see that the interest did indeed go down a little. The payment, if I drag this down, it's 50. That looks good. The new balance, if I drag this down, 1959.70. That makes sense because we paid a little less in interest. We still paid the same payment. So last time our balance went down by 20 bucks, now it went down by $20.30. And it's that gap is gonna keep getting bigger and bigger over time. Let me remove row 3. Where I typed month 3. Let me see if I can just highlight this and drag it down a few if everything looks okay. And it does. The 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 may have just stayed 2s. It depends on how you're highlighting things. It really does. That's why we tell you your undo button is your best friend and then try something different. All right, the payment isn't changing. The interest is getting smaller each month. The starting balance and ending balance is getting smaller each month. So let's see what happens after a full year. So we go to row 13 for 12 months. We're down to $1,739. We've made $600 in payments, but we've only reduced the balance by 260 bucks approximately. Okay, well, let's keep going. Let's highlight a whole row and drag it down. Let's go to year 2, so 24 months, which would be row 25. Well, down to 1,400. All right, how about 3 years in, which is 36 months, so row 37. Oh, well, we're about halfway down in 3 years. Let's go to 4 years. 48 months, which is row 49. All right, we're picking up steam. Now we've gone down another $400. That was quicker. Let's go 5 years in, which would be 60 months, which is row 61. Ooh, we're almost there. So maybe let's just take this another row at a time. Almost there. 1 more month. Now what you see here is parentheses. In Excel, that means negative. Sometimes it will show a negative symbol, and that's if you did not format it to currency, I believe. And then sometimes it'll show it in parentheses, but just understand that if you see a parentheses number like this, that means it's negative. Now you only owed $26.84 this month. Why would you ever pay $50 the next month if you only owed $26.84 previously? So maybe you think you're going to pay $26.84. That's not the answer. Watch what happens. You still owe 41 cents, and that's probably because there's some inherent tenths of cents built in. So, well, that's because you had to pay this extra 40 cents in interest. So let's bump this up to $27.24. Now again, it's going to say 1 penny because of some round off issues, but you've paid it off at that point. And if not, 27.25, boom. Now it's paid off. It's in parentheses because the number stored there is actually like 0.0053, a negative number. There you go, 62 months. All right, so Excel helped us figure out how many months it would take to pay this off. Maybe you hate Excel and maybe you just want to go to the internet. So you go to the internet, you go to calculator, payoff, oh sorry, credit card, payoff, calculator. I've clearly typed before. And first one, This is my site, the one, not my site personally, the one I really like. We started with a balance of $2,000. You can see I've done this before. An APR. Now, when it says interest rate, that means the annual interest rate, not the periodic rate. And then the payment per month, we say we were making $50 payments. And look at that. In the snap of a finger, it did everything for us. And you go, Mr. Beckner, why are you even teaching us Excel? Because Excel gives you the line by line play. This doesn't. This doesn't tell you every single little detail along the way. And then it gives you some advertisements if you don't have ad blocker. Let's not worry about that stuff. This gives us so much more information. But it is just an alternative method. Both work. And do I care which way you're doing this in your real life to find this stuff? No, I care that you care enough about your finances to try this stuff out one way or another. That's why I'm giving you options. So by doing the fixed cell references over here, fixed cell references over here, referencing these numbers, now I can say, all right, well, what if I have bad credit and my APR is higher? What if I got a 24% APR? A lot of things are going to change over to the left as soon as I hit enter in 3, 2, 1, boom. Now our interest has gone from $30 for the first month to $40, which means out of this $50 payment, only 10 of it went towards the principal. And now 62 months in, we're just over halfway done. So just going from 18 to 24%, which is significant, now it's going to take us, I'm just going to try and guess. Ooh, that was way too far down. Let's try about here. Way too far still, so let's take some away. And there we go. It would take 89 months where that last payment would not be a full payment. And 89 months is what, 7.5 years? Just under 7.5 years. It would be 7 years, 4 months, 5 months, 5 months. 7 years, 5 months. So just from having good credit to bad credit, or just from having an 18% card versus a 24% card, you've now gone from 62 months, which is 5 years and 2 months, to 89 months, which is 7 years and 5 months. So you've added 2 years and 3 months because of a bad credit rate. You go, all right, well, I've got this terrible credit rate. Maybe I should make bigger payments to account for that. I've got an extra $50 in my wallet every month after this, so let me pay $100. Now let's see how fast this will be done with this crummier interest rate. So by paying $100 each month, look at this, we've paid it off in 26 months. If we had the better interest rate of 18%, instead of paying it off in 26 months, we would pay it off in 24 months. It would cut off by 2 months. And it's kind of funny because that 18 versus 24% APR isn't as big of a deal. It didn't go from 62 to 89. It went from 24 to 26. It only added 2 months. So the higher interest rate isn't as big of a deal as long as you're willing to double up on your payment, or increase the payment sum. Maybe you say, all right, I got $150. Let's see how quick we can pay it off. Now it's 15 months, a year and 3 months. That's nothing in the grand scheme of things. All right, well, my initial balance was $5,000 maybe. Look at how easily I'm just able to change stuff by having those fixed cell references. If I hadn't done that, I would have had to fix the 5,000 here. That would have been it for that issue. The interest, though, since I had the 18% here, I would have to correct the 18% in every single one of these, and I could certainly do this kind of thing where I fill the formula down, but it's more than 2 steps. The same thing with the payment. If I change the payment number, I'm going to have to change it here, change it here, change it here, change it here, and all of them. So fixed cell references really do make things just happen quicker if you want to go through different scenarios. Okay, so now we have a $5,000 starting balance. Let's say we had a $50 payment. Let's go back to the $50 payment. Why did I type it there? Because I'm trying to rush. Let's go back to a $50 payment and look at this. Our balance each month is going up because we're not even paying the interest off. There's $75 in interest, but we're only paying $50. Now, again, the credit card company legally can't do this. You can give them $50 and they'll reduce your balance, but then they're going to hit you with a fee for not paying off the appropriate amounts for the month. And again, I know that's ironic, but that is how our economy works, unfortunately. So your minimum payment would have to be at least 75 bucks. Let's say you had some credit card company and they let you make $80 payments here. Let's see how long it would take us to pay off $5,000, 80 bucks at a time. We're in month 89, which is 7.5 years in, and our balance, something looks wrong. What happened? What happened? What happened? The 80s changed here. That must have been how I filled something down. All right, so let me just fix that. See, little issues. I noticed the balance was going up and that didn't make sense. Now I got those right. So 7.5 years in, we've only knocked $1,000 off of our credit card balance. By paying $5 more than the interest on a $5,000 balance, we've gotten nowhere practically in 7 years. Let's see how bad this is. All right, 162 months in, we still have a balance. I'm just arbitrarily dragging. 184 months in, which is 15 years and 4 months, we still have a $173 balance. So we're getting closer at least. There we go. 187 months, that is 15 years and 7 months. Typically, credit card companies are not allowed to make you take 15 years and 7 months to pay off something. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe 10 years is the maximum they're allowed to drag it out. But you might be thinking, well, Mr. Beckner, I've been paying off a credit card for 30 years and it's never hit a $0 balance. That's because you've been adding to the pile. Nowhere in this scenario have I added to the pile. I could certainly add to the pile by saying, all right, well, 10 months in, I charged $1,000 in plane tickets. So my $49.52 balance, I would just say, instead of making a reference, just make that 4952, make it 5952. And now all of a sudden, we are no longer paying things off. All of a sudden, now that I've added that $1,000, my interest is over the payment, and I'm going to have to bump the payment up to maybe, $90, and then I can drag that cell down, 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 down. See, I can't fix it on the right side because that was a change in the system. But when you have spreadsheets, you can do things like this. All right, but because we added that $1,000 about a year in, now we're 187 months in and barely even scratching the surface. I'm telling you, this is something awesome that you can play with, and you've got the video, so you can pretty much just replicate exactly as I've done, as long as you're willing to take the time. But I do encourage you to try this with the video if you have to, then try it without the video and see if you can build this on your own. Because then you can have extra little subtle changes along the way. Like you can make bigger payments some random month here. Oh, I just got my tax rebate check for $2,000. So I go, I'm going to put that whole thing on my credit card. And now all of a sudden my balance is $2,000 lower. And now everything's paid off in 114 months, which is about, what is that, 9.5 years. You can track your spending, you can track your savings, you can track everything with Excel. Yes, there are awesome websites out there to help do things like that as well, like everydollar.com, mint.com. They offer free services. I highly encourage you to check them out. I have given you projects and homeworks to encourage this stuff, building it on your own. But at the same time, use the resources that are available to you in your life and on the internet. All right, so let's take this problem and let's upscale it. Let's change from a credit card to a home. Now, homes do not have initial balances of $5,000 unless you were just extremely lucky and had someone donate a lot of money to you. Or maybe you saved up for a really, really, really long time before this. There's lots of different things. Also, homes don't have 18% APRs except in the 70s and the 80s, and even then it kind of peaked at 16%. It's more like 3 or 4% now. Now, the one thing that you do need for this is the monthly payment calculation. So let's say you're going to buy a $200,000 home. Say you borrow $200,000 for a home. at, and let's use a more realistic number right now. For my other class, we went for it with 4.75. Let's go with 3.5% APR paid monthly. When I say paid, I mean you're paying the bank back. We're going to do this for 30 years. I'm going to ask, how much interest do you borrow? Sorry, how much interest do you pay back? Your monthly payment is, and I'm going to go to a website to do this real quick, or I could use that formula sheet to calculate it. I've given you enough information. Here we go. Loan payment, you just need the principal, which is the $200,000 we borrow, the rate, which was the 3.5%, N is always 12 for loans, and then the T would be 30 years. And we could jam those numbers in there, or we could just use the internet to help us out. We can go to, if we just Google mortgage calculator, or go to mortgagecalculator.org. Also Googling mortgage calculator, it's about the fourth or fifth one that pops up. But I'm going to keep this the simple way. So we're borrowing $200,000 at an interest rate of 3.5% for 30 years. And it tells us that our monthly payment is $898. Now, when you go to buy a home, that's not all you pay for. You also pay insurance on your home. You also pay taxes on your home. You will also pay PMI on your home, which is insurance against you because they don't trust you until you have roughly 20% down in a typical scenario. And then you can stop paying it, quote, in general. So there's a few extra bucks added to this on top of the loan, but hopefully that doesn't break you at that point. But this is the only number we need, that's $898. So our monthly payment is $898. If you use the formula sheet, I will show you that it confirms that. So our payment oh no. All right. This is always fun. Oh, there we go. I've never seen that happen. I know I say that a lot, but it happens a lot. So again, the P here is the 200,000. The R is the 3.5%, which is 0.035. The N is 12, and the T is 30. Now that exponent, the negative NT, is negative 12 times 30, which is negative 360. So in the formula, we got 200,000 times 0.035 over 12, and all over bracket 1 minus parentheses 1 plus 0.035 over 12 raised to the negative 360. Please don't hit save. There we go. Now, I know I put these numbers in pretty quickly, but again, I'm not having the emphasis on this, even though it is an awesome skill to have. It's literally just put the circle in the circle, put the square in the square, put the triangle in the triangle. Pay attention to what the letters say, and everything will be fine. So we get a calculator, screen, clear the screen. 200,000 times 0.035 divided by 12. Make sure you're closing parentheses. This is literally just copy paste. The fraction counts as a division. Brackets count as parentheses. 1 minus, parentheses, 1 plus. Practice this on your own though, if you want to. 0.035 divided by 12. Close it. Raise it to the negative 360. Remember, always pre-multiply your exponents for things like this. Close the bracket, which is another parentheses. And look at that, $898. And then our formula does have the pennies, 9 cents. But let's just stick to the whole dollar of $898. So it works. It's not just made up. So now that we have that, our monthly payment was $898. So we have our initial balance of $200,000, an APR of 3.5%. Let's widen that column so the number displays, and a monthly payment of $898. And again, I did have to calculate that. I can't just say I'm going to pay $500 or $700. Obviously, we have to pay over $583. But the initial goal of the mortgage is to pay it off in exactly 30 years. Yes, you can make extra payments. You can say, all right, month 2, I want to pay $1,000 and overwrite it. And then month 9, I just got my big tax rebate, so I'm going to pay $2,500 if that's your choice. And then everything will adjust from there. And I'm going to have to fix some things. This was a changed up number. So let's just delete everything below the third row. Da, 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 da. Go. APR 3.5%. It's displaying as 4. I can change the decimal precision so that I see the 3.5, and there we are. So starting balance, $200,000. Then that first month, we're going to pay $583.33 to the bank. $898 is our payment, and then what goes towards the principal. And if you wanted to see that, you could have an extra column after that, or the new balance. The new balance would just be the difference of the payment, the interest, and the starting balance. So you can see it adds the balance and the interest and then subtracts the payment. Same as with a credit card. You might say, well, why does the credit card not use that big goofy formula? Actually, it does if you never add anything else to the credit card. As long as you keep making the same payment, then you can use that big goofy formula. But most of us are changing our credit card balance on a month-to-month basis. All right, let's see if things make sense if I highlight the whole row and just drag it down a few. We're looking good. My payment's not changing. My interest is going down each month, which it should. If I had a column for my principal, which would be the amount basically buried under my house 10 feet below that I can only get when I sell the house, that would just be the sum of all the differences of your interest, payments, interest, and balances. Here, I'll show you what I mean. Principal, which is the amount of money you have in the house. That's just equal to the 200,000 minus the balance. So we paid $314 to ourselves essentially that first month. And then you could drag that down more if you wanted to. And then you can see that the principal is going up each month very, very slowly. Again, principal in your home, also known as equity, by the way, is just going up slowly and slowly. And again, is this column necessary? No, but it's nice seeing what kind of money you have. So if I sold my house this month for exactly $200,000 and nobody charged me any fees, that means I'd be able to cash out $2,222. There's fees though, and you're not going to sell your house for the same, so don't expect that exact number. All right, we're paying this for 30 years, which is 360 months. So I got to drag this down to row 361. And it shouldn't take too long. Boom, there we go. And clearly I need to widen that column. And things are looking a little weird, aren't they? Why are they a little weird? Well, actually they're not weird. You might say, why is that right column growing? It shouldn't be growing. Well, that's because I added that in the principal. So you can see by that last month, we have $199,943.21 in principal. Now you might be saying, well, Mr. Beckner, why didn't it go to $0 for the amount owed and $200,000 to the amount we have in if that's our last payment? Two issues. One, the round off that we did, we said that the true monthly payment, which you would pay the pennies in reality, was $898.09. So if you change your payment to $898.09, it should be closer. So let's fix that. $898.09. Now let's see if we're right. And we are. In fact, we're 40 cents over. Now, sometimes that last payment, you end up paying a couple bucks extra or a couple bucks less. And again, it's just round off error because you're not supposed to be paying exactly 9 cents. You're supposed to be paying, to have this to happen in exactly 360 months, you would pay $898.08 and then 93756, what is that, like 10 thousandths of a cent, something like that. But no one's going to pay the 10 thousandths of a cent part. So with mortgages, typically you're either just a hair over or a hair under on that very last payment, but you can see that we have basically got it to zero balance. And we now have $200,000 worth of home to ourselves. So if we sold it now at the 361st month, we would get $200,000 if we sold it for $200,000 and we had our aunt or uncle be our real estate agent and they didn't charge us a fee. You go, okay, well, can I change some things about this? Well, what would happen? Well, what can I change? My credit sucks, so I've got a 5% APR instead on this home loan. Okay, well, you can change the 5%. And now what you're going to see is by that 360th month, we have no longer paid it off. We're $53,000 in debt. I'm sorry, we're $146,000 in debt. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm not used to making the principal the far right column. I did that as an after effect. So that's why I've said 2 or 3 things squirrely for a second, but then caught myself. So we're only $146,000 down. We're not paid off. In 30 years, you don't want to get a home loan more than 30 years. Yes, there are 50-year loans. Please don't get a 50-year loan unless you're extremely sick or something. I don't know, whatever you have to do to live, but try not to get a 50-year loan. It's awful. So what does that mean? It means our monthly payment was supposed to go up, and we don't calculate that. Well, what can I do? How do I calculate that? Well, first of all, you could pull out your calculator and just change these 0.035s to 5s. And I can do that really easily with this calculator with the arrows. So change that to a 5 and delete. Change that to a 5 and delete. Or you can retype the whole thing just with 5s instead of 3 5s. And you can see our payment's supposed to be $1,073.64 a month. So that extra 1.5% APR, which does not sound like a lot, has made our monthly payment go from about $900 to about $1,075. Which is a $275 increase. 1.5% APR has increased our payment by $275, almost $300. That's just 1.5%. And you're going to pay that extra $275 360 times. That APR can make or break you. So now let's change this to $1,073.64. And we'll start to see our numbers flow a little more usually by about 20 years in, which would be the 240th month, you're about halfway down with the loan. It usually takes 20 years to get halfway down on a 30-year loan because you pay more interest up front, and then the back 10 years, you're going to pay more towards your principal. All right, so let's see, 360, are we at 0? Oh, we'd have to make an extra $2.70 payment that month, but yes, we're at 0 essentially. Again, that's because of the round off on the hundredths and thousandths of a penny that we're not actually including. Because when you deal with numbers this large and for such a long time, they become, I don't want to call it significant, but minorly significant. You know, it's an extra $3. Again, not going to break the bank over that. I'm going to go on a side rant for a second. That 3.5% versus 5%. Maybe you can afford the 3.5% $900 payment, but you can't afford the 5% $1,000.74 payment. That is exactly what caused the housing crash of 2008. And you go, well, Mr. Beckner, your rates don't change. If you're getting the correct loan, then yes, your loans as a rate don't change. So if you get a 5% loan, it stays 5% for 30 years. If you get a 3.5% loan, it stays 3.5% for 30 years. Your monthly payments don't change. Your taxes might change. Your insurance might change. And by might, I mean they will. Your taxes will go up. Your insurance will go up. I can definitely tell you that. If you're in Portsmouth, your taxes are going to go up more than everyone else because, well, government in Portsmouth is the government in Portsmouth. So how does this relate to the housing crash? Well, it's not as popular now, but more than a decade ago, 15, 20 years ago, something called a variable rate loan was very popular. A variable rate loan does exactly what the name says. It varies. When you start out your loan, they might go, all right, we're going to give you this really good 2.5% or 3% or 3.5% rate, but it doesn't stay that way. It varies. And do you think it's going to go down? Of course it's not going down. The bank is not going to decrease your rate. It goes up. Now, they can only make it go up. They call it a 5% ARM, a 5% adjustable rate mortgage, ARM, adjustable rate mortgage. The 5 year does not mean you pay off the loan in 5 years. It means that after 5 years, the initial rate they give you, that 3%, that sweet 3% rate, goes up to 4% the next year. And then they can bump it to 5% the next year. And then they can bump it to 6% the next year. And then they can bump it to 7% the next year. And then they can bump it to 8% the next year. And you saw what that extra little 1.5% did. Imagine if your loan went from 3 to 8% from years 5 to 10. You know, all right, 3%, I'm doing well. 4%, all right, I can still handle this. It's fine. 5%. Ooh, we're starting to penny pinch. We got rid of our Cox Cable account. You know, I'm going to downgrade my car. I'm not going to go on a vacation. 6%. Uh-oh. I got to bring credit cards in this scenario. 7%. Holy cap. Holy cow. How did my mortgage get this high? 8%. Oh, well, I'm underwater now. I've got to sell the farm and go rent an apartment or do whatever it is. And I've lost my home. And it happened to millions of people all at once because they were giving out these arms all at once. And they hit that critical, you know, 6, 7, 8% rate all kind of at the same time. And all these different pensions, we call them mortgage-backed securities, they fell apart because people weren't paying their homes anymore, and the economy collapsed over a couple of percent points. That's it. That's what killed our economy, a couple percent points. But we stopped giving out arms so much. We stopped giving home loans to people with poor credit because we were giving them pretty much to everyone. We dropped the value of homes significantly for the next 4 years. We kind of hit the reset button and things were doing really, really good overall until, you know, almost a year ago, and we all know what happened there. And you might say, well, the stock market's doing excellent. Yes, it is, but the stock market does not necessarily mirror what's really happening in the real world. While your stocks may be climbing and soaring right now at the moment, you know, your local corner store, your local restaurant, local whatever, they might be hurting, closing, lots of people without jobs. It's more about the individual hurting right now than, you know, certain aspects of the economy. When you look at it as a whole, we are hurting, and who knows what's going to happen over the next 1, 2, 3 years, which is why I encourage you all to save as much as possible. And again, if you don't, that's your prerogative. You do what you do. I'm just educating. I'm just giving you the numbers to show you how scary stuff can be. How else can I scare you? All right, let's look at the interest with this 3.5 versus 5% loan. So we already have this set up correctly for the 5% loan. So interest column, let's just add up every single interest payment we made, which is C2 through C361. So total interest equals sum, open parentheses, C2 colon C361. And we can see that I've got all those highlighted if I scrolled up, close my parentheses. And we're paying $186,513 in interest on this loan. Honestly, that's not the end of the world. Yes, it is about the value of your house and interest going to the bank for free. But it beats when we were the 70s and the 80s paying 15% loans, and this total interest was triple that amount. So hold on to that number for a second. Let me just write that down. So the 5% loan, it was 186,513. I don't need the pennies. $186,513. Let's take our payment down to the $898 again. Let's drop that APR to 3.5%. Now let's see what that total interest is. It's going down, then we hit zero, $123,000. So that $275 extra a month you were paying for the 5% loan versus the 3.5% loan. That extra $275 a month ends up saving you a big chunk of change over time. How much does it save you? Let me just go equals, click this cell, minus this cell. That's your savings. That's the 3.5 versus the 5%. $63,000. Now that 3.5 versus 5% could have just been because of your credit. It could have been because of other issues, or maybe it's just the account you can actually get at that time. Mortgage rates have a kind of a floor for the best credit out there, and then they go up a couple points for the worst credit. But that changes over time. Back in 2006, the low rates were like 6 to 7%. Now they're 3%, 3 to 3.5%. A decade ago, they were around 5 to 6%. Again, the 70s and the 80s, they were 15 to 16%. This is variable throughout the ages.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and call it a day there. I think that was a pretty good, just kind of, like I said, flow of Excel using the credit card details and mortgage details. Sorry, my dog is making a noise in the background. It was really distracting me. I couldn't get my thoughts straight. But yeah, so we will see you next time. I think we might do like kind of a final exam review next time. And yeah, so for now, have a good day. Have a good weekend. We'll see you soon.